So one of the reasons why people don't get better from concussion injuries and whiplash injuries is because of the activity pattern that you can see here, the crash response system, where everything they do is almost way too stimulating to do. And when you get a concussion, you can no longer do normal activities like you could before, and you have to dramatically change the way you live your life to recover. And it's very, very difficult to do because it takes such an adjustment to the way that you're used to living your life. And if you're not recovering, it's possibly, most likely, because of a current activity pattern that is similar to this, where you are doing an activity and you go past the point of what we shall call as your safe zone and into the danger zone, where your symptoms become too exacerbated that you can't recover from them in a timely manner. And so then you get that crash response. So say, for instance, if you're in a point in your recovery where you can go have dinner with a few people, perhaps a conversation got lively or the dinner got loud, and you are having a really good time and you don't want to leave, and your headache gets really, really bad, or your symptoms get really bad. And instead of taking a break, a micro break for 5-10 minutes or leaving early, you push through your symptoms. And so when you get home, and probably the next day, you will have a crash day. A lot of times this happened, I know, for me, trying to get through the work week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I would kind of be okay. I'd get to Friday, I would be exhausted. Thursday, Friday, and then I just spend the weekend recovering, or even during the work day, work night schedule. So during the work day, you go really, really hard, you push through your symptoms, and then you're just completely fucked up, for lack of a better term, during your night. You can't make dinner, you can't enjoy simple conversations with your family. You end up spending it lying on the couch. You can't do things that you get enjoyment out of, like listen to music, watch TV, read a book. And the way you fix that is by changing this activity pattern that you see here from the crash response activity pattern to a more targeted activity pattern that you're looking for. Which includes basically taking a break before you hit your danger zone. And it's very difficult for people to understand where that danger zone is, and it takes a long time to learn. And the quicker you can learn where your danger zone is, the faster you will recover and get on a more kind of even playing field, where you're actually climbing the ladder instead of being okay and then crashing, recuperating, and then being okay and then crashing again. And so the way you do that is experts, occupational therapists and physiotherapists, will advise you based off of a 2-point system. So a 2-point system, which means basically if your symptoms increase, that is 1 point. Or if your symptom changes, that is another point. Or if your headache changes location, that is also a point. And if you get to 2 points, you stop what you're doing and you take a break until you get your symptoms back down to the baseline level where you started when you woke up in the morning. That's the key point. You don't have to get rid of your symptoms, but you're trying not to make them worse. And this is a lot easier said than done, especially early on in the concussion recovery process, because it seems like you can almost do nothing, which, if that's the case, you haven't rested enough, and you need to rest. Take time off work, please. Get some co-parenting help. Find somebody to help get your groceries, order in, do what you can do to build up that baseline where you can get to a point where you can get through a day within that 2-point, using that 2-point system. Because what will happen is that you'll find your quality of life increase. So you want to get to this safe zone and stay in this safe zone, so you're you're basically taking breaks before your symptoms get too bad that they take too long to recover from. Or a key indicator for this, I was told by quite a few people, is that if you're waking up the next day and your symptoms were worse than the day before, you did too much the day before and you need to scale what you're doing back. And this is probably the hardest thing to do when you're recovering from a concussion, because the capacity that you're given to work in with this injury can be so small that perhaps all you get to do in a day is walk to the corner store to get groceries. And that is the significance and trickiness of this injury, in that you will recover and you can recover, but you have to allow yourself the time to have that recovery period, and you have to play this game. It sucks, it's hard, it's frustrating. It is the biggest lesson in patience of your fucking life. Eventually, what you want to get to is this long-term activity pattern. So when you play the two-point system, you will find that your ability to increase in activity will increase over time. Whereas if you keep playing that push through symptoms crash, push through symptoms crash, you will never get to this, which is where you're able to increase your activity levels week after week. And so your safe zone actually gets much higher than where and it gets much harder to get into that danger zone. So instead of, maybe after 2 weeks now, or a week or a couple days, what you can do instead of just walking to the corner store is you can walk to the corner store and you can watch a movie that day. And over time, you'll be able to build on this. And what you're doing is you are basically working within that two-point system, because the symptoms are your sign that you're pushing yourself too hard. Similar to when I was recovering from my injury, I always tried to describe it as, you would never expect somebody who broke their leg to get up and run a marathon every day on their broken leg, which is essentially what you're doing when you have a brain injury and you're not slowing down, is that you're walking or running on a broken leg every day, and it is never going to get better if you keep doing that. And so you have to allow yourself and give yourself the time to have a proper recovery by working within that two-point system and using that as your basis for what your brain and what your body is telling you is that you're allowed to do. And that is probably the most important piece of information, that is the single hardest thing to figure out for yourself and do, because this symptom onset line is always changing. Changes day to day. Some days it's higher than others, other days it's lower than others. It's this fine line that you're constantly trying to walk, and you don't know when you get up that day where that line is going to be, and you have no control over it. And the best thing I can say for you is to accept that you don't have any control over this situation, and that your brain is now the one in control, and that these symptoms are now in control and they tell you what to do. And it can be very difficult to accept that, but the sooner that you accept that, the sooner you will be on your way to recovery.